Yeah, it's exciting. I saw Justin had one on too. It's awesome.
He didn't want to speak Spanish with us.
Yeah, Gil tried to get him.
You need some more practice.
Hopefully you'll speak some Spanish with us.
Man, I don't know. My wife Amy has an ESL endorsement. When I was coaching in junior college at Hutchinson in Kansas, she taught at a elementary school, Avenue A, that was like overwhelmingly Hispanic, and so she ended up getting her ESL endorsement at Friends University down in Wichita. So yeah, nice little side story.
There you go. Yeah, that's always great.
Hey Brandon, Baker Mayfield doesn't have the greatest stats, so what makes him such a dangerous quarterback?
I think the stats that quarterbacks are measured by, he's got really good stats, which is wins and losses, and taking that team to the playoffs last year. And he's a really exciting player. He can really create offense for you when there's not a lot of offense to be had. I think he's a real engine for an offense. Like, I think you just go back to watching him in Oklahoma. I remember watching him back then just go up against these SEC schools and going up against Ohio State at Ohio State. And I think he really brings that engine that a team needs, that confidence, that fearlessness. And so I think he's always had that. And I think when you trace it back to wherever he's been, high school, college, and now, he's affected his teams in a positive way. And I think that he's been a fantastic player for them, and it's a guy that we respect a lot.
So are you mentally scouting him way back when, thinking you might have to deal with him later on?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a quarterback follower. That's the position I played, so I've always been kind of just interested in that position since I was a little kid. So I just know that when specifically at Oklahoma, following him in college, I mean, this guy's he's a plant the flag type player. He's a guy that really breeds confidence in your football team and that can really bring the best out in the people around him because of how he plays. And I think that every quarterback's got a unique style. But I think his style is that of confidence and fearlessness, and he's a creator. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good of a passer he is. I know that when I was with Sean last year, we just have so much respect for how he throws the football too. He's a very powerful guy, can really drive the football, can throw it off platform. But I mean, I think just as a pure passer, he does not get enough credit for how good of a thrower of the football that he is.
With Chris Harris Jr., he's been full basically the whole week. Do you think he has a good chance of playing up with it?
Yeah, I think we're going to list him as questionable, but barring any setback, I think he should play. He's practiced pretty well this week and is feeling pretty good. So, always kind of reserve that setback type deal, but hoping that he can play for sure.
Would he be full go in the game?
Yeah, if he plays, yeah, Daniel, good question. If he plays in the game, then we expect him to be going.
How does that change your game plan and having Chris available to you? How does that change your game plan?
It just gives you more options. Just gives you more options in how you deploy those DBs. And so, like I said, he practiced all last week too. And just like I said, we're always going to err on the side of caution with a player, especially this early in the season. And we just felt like having one more week would be good for him. And he's performed well so far this week and has been doing all the jobs that he normally does for us. So if he plays, that means that he can go out there without reservation.
And so available to play some safety if you need him in the slot, like wherever.
Yeah, all those roles for sure.
Coach Staley, how would you kind of evaluate where Cleveland stands, their front seven stand compared to the other front seven you guys face defensively?
They're as good as it is right now in pro football. I think what they've done a nice job of too is Anthony Walker, I think, was a value signing for them. I think he's been a real stabilizer at linebacker. He can really run. He's really smart. And then they drafted Notre Dame, Owosu, who can really run. He's a chess piece that they can use, deploy him in a lot of different ways. So I think their front, their actual D line gets a lot of recognition, rightfully so. But I think their linebacking core, as important, gives them that front seven that can really run. And so you got people behind them that can do the job. So I think from a D line perspective, I mean, they're just really deep. They're really deep up front. And so they kind of remind me of San Francisco's front, where they just have a lot of rushers, they inside and outside. And so when you have Miles and Tack and Jadeveon, Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell, like they have a lot of quality players in there. And I think that their front is definitely the strength of their team. And I think the way they're playing on defense right now, it doesn't just reflect a good front seven. it reflects a complete defense because I have a lot of respect for their secondary. You know, they added two of the guys who I coached, who I have the utmost respect for, you know, John Johnson and Troy Hill. You know, they've got Denzel Ward, Ronnie Harrison, Grant Delpit, Greedy Williams. They got a lot of guys out there in the secondary that are quality players too. And you don't play the type of defense that they've been able to play if you don't have a complete defense.
I wanted to ask you about John Johnson. What will it be like going up against him?
You know, JJ's one of my favorites. I certainly wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. So I have so much respect for him, and we'll have a moment, you know, pregame. But he's the ultimate competitor, and you know, you can see the value that he's brought to that team, and that's what I'm proud of. You know, he earned every cent that he got last year, and that's what you want from your players and the people around you, is for them to live their dreams. And he earned every penny that he signed in free agency, and you can see what he's done for that team in a short time, because I know that they needed help in the secondary, and he's given them a bunch of it.
Brandon, Jackson being down for a plan to have Joshua Kelly be active for game day?
Yes, that would be the direction for sure. Yep.
Do you know about Ryan Smith yet?
Yeah, so Ryan's trending positive, and he's gone out there all week and practiced well. So look to see him out there, you know, this weekend, barring, again, a setback between now and the game.
You grew up in Browns country. Does that mean anything for you this weekend at all? Anything extra?
Not anything extra. I mean, I think for people back home, you know, growing up in Northeast Ohio, there's a lot of pride in football growing up there. And high school football is a huge deal in Northeast Ohio, where I'm from. And, you know, the Browns are as big of a deal in Cleveland as anybody. It's a Browns town. And so I think you just grow up in that environment where football is really, really important. And there's a lot of people there that have meant a lot to me when I was, you know, growing up. I played for an awesome high school coach, Bob Ridley, and Perry, you know, had awesome high school coaches. You know, Pat Janelle, Mike Ryan, Jeff Hartman, Bob Tribisano, those guys mean a lot to me. And then at John Carroll, you know, those guys, I mean, a lot of Northeast Ohio guys that were on my staff and that we coached. So football's king there. And, you know, I think there's some good storylines there for sure, growing up a Browns fan. And then, you know, all the family and friends that'll be at the game, there'll be a healthy amount. So it's always a special deal.
With Ryan Smith, I think you guys have 52 on the roster right now, so the plan is for him to get activated and take that.
If he's healthy and ready to go, then that would be the direction.
We talk
Yes, sir.
about Connor Fackrell and the production he's had this season, and kind of what you expect, how you seen it.
I love that question, Cam. So we really were going to make a run at this guy when I was with the Rams. Okay, we really liked him, and he ended up going to the New York Giants, because I had a lot of respect for him when I was in the division with him in Chicago. This guy had, you know, always played well against us, and we always felt like he was a really versatile player, really underrated, just complete edge player. And, you know, last year he had a really good season with the Giants, and so when we were able to, you know, engage him in free agency, you know, when you're joining up with, you know, in your first, you know, year, he was the type of guy that I just felt like would really help our team. He would really help our defense. And he's just been a really bright spot from the second he got here. He's been great for the room. He gives you value on special teams, which I don't think you can minimize that. And then he's a complete edge player, which I think you've seen. His rush production has been fantastic so far. And then what he gives you from a flexibility standpoint, doing some of those, you know, outside linebacker jobs. You know, him and Chenna both can do that, which helps Joey not have to play all the time. And so he has a really valuable role on this team, and he's got awesome makeup. He's a great competitor, student of the game, and we're really glad that we have him.
Coach, Chris Rumpf has taken a couple of snaps.
Yeah.
How have you felt like he's kind of progressed with, I mean, obviously you're not going to throw him in head first, it's slowly but surely, but how do you feel like he's done?
Yeah, I think Fernando, that room has been awesome for him to learn from three really quality veteran players, and we've been able to kind of give him spurts of action instead of like all this action at once, and I feel like that's helped him. But he's shown that he belongs out there. He really does. I mean, his athleticism, his playmaking ability, he continues to get stronger. He's been awesome with Anthony Lamondo and Jonathan Brooks, making sure that we're really on him about his weight. I kind of joke with you guys, squeezing his bicep, letting him know that he's not there yet. But he's been very good on special teams. For an edge player to be a 3 or 4 core special team guy, you know, says a lot about him. He provides that type of value. He had a really nice play on punt against Kansas City. He's been really good on kickoff. And so we're just going to continue to grow him, and we're going to need him this year for sure.
In today's NFL, the way the game has evolved, here's, the most teams are most dangerous with their passing attack. What is it like, how much of a departure for you to prep for a team that is so strong in the running game?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent point. And, you know, I think it's such an important part of, like, you know, the way we do things is each week has a life of its own. And so you can't ignore the passing game against this team because they're very dangerous. I mean, you got Odell Beckham out there. You know, you had Jarvis Landry. I mean, Donovan Peoples, Schwartz runs 4.2. They have 3 tight ends that can all catch the ball out of the backfield, and they're runners. So you have to treat the passing game with the same amount of attention that you normally do. But what's different about this team is the way they run the football and how they run it. They have a lot more types of runs than most teams, and they run it out of a lot of different personnel groupings. So you multiply the amount of runs that you're facing, and so I think that this week's a little bit different just because of the volume of runs and the quality of the runs, and then the quality of the runners. So and that's why they're a very balanced team. And I think that that's what makes them a dangerous team, because this guy throwing the football can really throw it. Okay, he's been, you know, banged up this year, but when they've needed to throw it with Baker Mayfield, they can throw it. And we have so much respect for their weapons. And so I think, you know, for us, that's been our approach this week, is that, you know, the run game is a big part of what they do. But the passing game and how they throw the football is also unique because of their keepers, screens, play pass. You know, they throw the ball different than a traditional drop back team that's, you know, 40 to 50 high volume throws. The quality of their throws is different, and it's dangerous because their pass design goes a long way without there being a lot of risk, okay? And that's always a dangerous passing attack to defend.
Brandon, with Trey McKitty, I see you guys took him in the 3rd round. He hasn't been active for a game. What have you seen out of him, and how much of him not being active for these games is just, you know, Steven Anderson taking a step down upon playing the way that he's playing?
Yeah, Daniel, important points, because we're really high on Trey McKitty. A lot of it was we wanted to make sure that he was full speed, coming off the year that he had last year. He had a knee injury during camp, kind of came back really quick, played a full year, went to the bowl game, Senior Bowl, that whole thing. We want to make sure he's full speed. That was important to me. He showed himself in training camp that he's capable to do the job. So I think more than anything, maybe similar to Brendan, is just making sure that they're ready for their action. He's certainly going to play this season for us. But you bring up another important point. I think our tight ends are playing really good football right now. And we just want to make sure that, I think a lot of times at the beginning of the year, you're still trying to figure out the exact role that you want him in. And I think that's given us some time here because of those other 3 guys that you mentioned, that we can kind of get Trey doing the right jobs when he does play for us, similar to Brendan. So we're really high on Trey, and I think he's going to be a quality player for us.
Hey, Coach, back to your edge rushers. Obviously, a sack is something that everybody can visibly see, or a hit on the quarterback in a hurry. When they don't get there, like, how are you grading them when they don't get there? And what production are you looking for?
Yeah, I think it's an important point. I think sack production is a real one of those illusion stats in the league. It's important for the players in terms of, like, you know, getting paid and all that. But, you know, hurries and hits is a lot more, you know, from a data standpoint, is a lot more predictable measure of, you know, future success. Okay, because sack production can spike, where pressure production is more consistent over time. And so that's a more valuable stat to look at than what we look at. And so that's a big one for us is their hit-hurry production relative to how many rushes they get. And a lot of it has to do with, like, how many, like, true rushes did they get? Because, you know, there's sometimes where, like Joey Bosa, for instance, like, how many true rushes is he getting? Is he getting chipped? Is he getting nudged? Like, how many times is he really getting a clean rush? I think that's something that you weigh into it as well, because that's the position I coached. And, like, you know, there was, like, a game, like, at the beginning of 2019 where, like, Bradley and Vaughn got chipped, like, out of, like, 15 rushes, like, they're getting chipped 9 or 10 times out of those 15. Like, they had 5 real rushes in the game, you know. So I think it's, you know, it's a great point that you're bringing up. And I think so much of what we value in the edge position too is being a complete player, like being the complete player. That's what we've really tried to emphasize with Joey, is being a complete player. Like, he had an awesome drop in a simulated pressure in the Vegas game. And it's never going to show up on the stat sheet. It's like when Kaiser and Linval almost sacked him. It's when Nas got the penalty. But Joey was like in perfect position. And it's that complete player that we're looking for in the run game, you know, how they play on their feet. You know, it's such a hard position to play now with the athleticism of the quarterbacks and all the scheme that they face. You know, you got to be a complete player in today's NFL. You can't just be like a D lineman. You got to be able to play a lot of different stuff, I think, in my opinion. And I feel like we've got 4 guys who are doing a really nice job for us.